cold January day in 1935, a man shrouded in mystery walked into the opulent lobby of the Hotel President in Kansas City, Missouri. He requested a room with a view, but not just any view. He specifically asked for a room facing the hotel's inner courtyard, away from the bustling city streets. This seemingly innocuous detail would later become one of the many puzzling aspects of his story. Owen, subsequently identified as Artemus Ogletree, had an unkempt appearance. He arrived sans luggage, carrying only a hairbrush, comb, and toothpaste. The hotel personnel provided inconsistent descriptions when attempting to place him by age. Some believed he was a young man in his early 20s, while others felt he looked older, possibly in his mid-30s. However, one detail stuck out. A huge scar scarred his face, and his ear bore the distinctive cauliflower form found in wrestlers and boxers. This one-of-a-kind combination of young features and physical indicators of a potentially harsh background would add to the mystery that was Artemus Ogletree. Roland T. Owen, later identified as Artemus Ogletree, stood out to the hotel president's staff. He seemed to favor a permanent twilight mood, keeping his room mostly dark. When hotel personnel came in to clean, they couldn't help but notice a shift in his demeanor. A disturbing incident occurred only a day after his arrival. A maid went about her chores and overheard a phone conversation through the half-open door. Owen's voice was tinged with apprehension, and he said curtly, "No, Dawn, I don't want to eat." This ambiguous exchange, along with the appearance of a second male voice in the room, piqued the interest of the staff. When questioned, Owen's companion merely disputed the need for fresh towels, despite strong proof that the room had not been serviced. Another unnerving meeting occurred with Mary Soptic, a maid assigned to clean Owen's room. When she found it locked, she used a passkey to gain inside, only to discover the person was covered in darkness. This darkness grew much more confusing when Owen claimed to be trapped in and lacked the necessary key. He provided no explanation for how this could have happened, leaving Mary feeling uneasy. As she cleaned, the phone rang again, breaking the silence. This time, Owen's voice was more assertive. "No, Dawn, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry. I just ate breakfast." A brief pause, followed by a forceful repetition of, "No, I am not hungry," only added to the intrigue surrounding the fascinating guest. These seemingly benign acts, taken together, presented a picture of a guy harboring secrets, a man who appeared on edge, and a man whose presence within the stately walls of the Hotel President threw a long shadow of mystery. The phone call made by Owen appeared to operate as a switch. Mary, the hotel maid, noticed a change in his demeanor. The first stillness had given way to a chatty curiosity. He bombarded her with questions about the hotel's history and the procedures of her profession. His friendliness persisted, making a great impact on Mary. After finishing her cleaning, she grabbed the dirty towels and left, leaving Owen alone in room 1046. However, the tranquility would not endure. Only a few hours later, Mary returned with a fresh supply of towels. A knock on the door was answered by a voice, but not Owen's. This unknown voice, rough and curt, inquired as to her intentions. When Mary explained her plan to supply fresh towels, she was met with a harsh dismissal. "We don't need any." Mary became confused and began to doubt her own memories. After all, hadn't she taken all the towels herself just a few hours before? Mary chose to depart without comment, not wanting to intrude on a possible conversation going place in the room. Meanwhile, the night unfolded to a contrasting soundtrack. Music and laughing erupted from room 1055, indicating a boisterous party. However, another story surfaced from room 1048. A woman who stayed there described hearing raised voices, cursing, and shouting from both men and women. It was unclear whether the ruckus originated in Owen's room or at a nearby party. The increasing dissonance formed a picture of a night far removed from the mysterious entrance of Roland T. The hotel president's tranquility was disturbed on a night in January 1935 when a disturbing demand for service came from room 1046. Della Ferguson, an observant housekeeper, noted the phone stayed off the hook, which piqued her curiosity. She sent bellboy Randolph Probst to investigate. Probst approached the room with a sense of routine, only to be welcomed with a muffled, "Come in," when he knocked. However, as he reached for the doorknob, he discovered it was locked from the inside. A second, more urgent pounding on the door resulted in a terrifying request: turn on the lights. Uncertainty gnawed at Probst as he cooperated, displaying an unnerving and confused scene. There, sprawled naked across the bed, lay the occupant known only as Roland T. Owen. His disheveled state might have been initially attributed to simple drunkenness, prompting Probst to simply replace the phone and retreat. However, the enigma further increased a few hours later. Probst was summoned back to room 1046 by the persistent phone, which was once again dangling from the hook. This time, the scene before him was considerably more terrible. Owen, now a horrible image of blood and suffering, was just holding on to life. The once disheveled individual was now chained at his most vulnerable points: neck, wrists, and ankles, implying a horrific battle. The evidence of torture was clear: a shattered skull, stab wounds in his breast, stomach, and legs, defensive cut marks on his wrists, and a bludgeoned head. Medical personnel arriving on the scene assessed the injuries to be 6 to 7 hours old, giving a picture of a lengthy and horrible ordeal. The room itself offered few answers, stripped bare of any clothing that might have belonged to Owen. The only clues left behind were a single unlit cigarette, a stark reminder of a potential moment of solace cut short, and a set of 4 fingerprints, believed to be from a woman. Owen, barely conscious, mumbled a disoriented explanation about hitting his head in the bathtub. This feeble attempt at explanation only deepened the enigma. Rushed to the hospital, Owen's brief flicker of life soon extinguished as he slipped into a coma and succumbed to his injuries later that night. The once ordinary hotel room became a macabre stage upon which a brutal crime had unfolded, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a victim whose final moments were shrouded in a nightmarish silence. The investigation took an unusual turn when officers visited Ogletree's chamber. His stuff was gone, including his meager assortment of toiletries and clothes. This entire absence sparked conjecture regarding his activities and location prior to his death. The only remaining personal items were a pair of drinking glasses, one of which contained a single fingerprint that authorities assumed to be from a woman. This tantalizing clue suggested a probable female companion, but her name remained unknown. Adding to the enigma, the room itself presented a baffling situation. The door was locked from the outside, and the key was nowhere to be found. This locked room scenario defied explanation and raised serious questions about how the perpetrator could have entered and exited without a trace. As if taunting the investigators, a lone note lay on the desk, scrawled in a hasty hand. It read, "Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait." This cryptic message offered no clear leads, but fueled speculation about a potential rendezvous gone wrong. Desperate for answers, the authorities turned their attention to Ogletree's genuine identity. His alias, Roland Owen, was plastered all over local newspapers with the prominent headline, "Do you recognize this man?" Despite their attempts, no one stepped forward to claim knowledge of the deceased. The lack of identification supported the assumption that Roland Owen was simply another mask worn by this enigmatic character. With no known relatives or kin, Ogletree's body sat in a local funeral parlor for weeks, getting closer to a pauper's burial in the city's Potter's Field. However, a ray of hope appeared in the form of a surprising act of generosity. An anonymous donor stepped forward, offering to pay for a funeral and even a floral arrangement signed simply, Louise. To add to the mystery, the same anonymous source requested that 13 American beauty roses be brought to the burial of the guy who went by the name Roland Owen. With each new revelation, the Artemus Ogletree case grew more convoluted, leaving police with more questions than answers. For a year and a half, the man who was brutally killed in a Kansas City hotel room went unidentified. Then, a flash of recognition from a concerned mother across state lines began to peel back the layers of mystery. In 1936, Ruby Ogletree, a woman from Alabama, received a magazine article with a hazy photo of the victim's head wound. A spark of recognition passed through her. The scar in the photo was an identical match to a childhood injury her son, Artemus, had acquired from a hot grease burn. Artemus Ogletree, it proved out, was only 17 years old when he disappeared from his Birmingham home in April 1934. The last confirmed sighting of him was gone, leaving a terrifying silence. Ruby, desperate for any sign of hope, phoned the authorities. The inquiry confirmed her darkest fears. The unidentified victim from the hotel president was actually her lost son. However, the journey to discovering the truth about Artemis's death took an unexpected turn. While investigating his final days, authorities discovered 3 letters addressed to Ruby. Curiously, the substance of these letters indicated at Artemis' location in far-off Egypt, a claim that stretched credibility given the date. More concerning was the fact that some of these letters were mailed after the confirmed date of his death. This frightening fact, together with the enigmatic letters, steered the investigators towards a possible link to another murder committed in 1937, this time in New York City. A guy arrested for the New York murder, using the alias Donald Kelso, had a writing style that was strikingly similar to the author of the letters Ruby received. Despite this lead, detectives lacked the concrete proof required to file charges. The FBI joined the fray, searching through available material but eventually came up empty-handed. The year 2012 provided a new spark of intrigue. A Kansas City Public Library historian named John Horner investigated the matter and published his findings on the library's blog. Horner revealed in a later piece that between 2003 and 2004, an anonymous caller called him with a stunning revelation. While rummaging through the things of a recently deceased individual, the caller came across a box containing newspaper clippings concerning the Ogletree case. But here's the kicker. The box also included an object, which was mentioned several times in the papers, and allegedly linked the deceased to the murder. However, the caller refused to reveal the nature of this incriminating evidence, leading the investigation to another frustrating dead end. The horrible murder of Artemus Ogletree is still shrouded in secrecy. The cause of the murder has never been determined, and no one has been brought to justice. The remaining doubts about the unknown benefactor who paid for his funeral, the odd roses left at his grave with a cryptic message, and the unidentified fingerprints discovered at the crime site all contribute to the Artemus Ogletree murder case's eerie mystery. Who do you think the murderer could be? Could it be that woman whose fingerprints were found on the glass by the authorities? What could be the cause for the murder? Should the authorities have done a more thorough investigation? Please feel free to share your opinions in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or email at crimesabroad@outlook.com. Your engagement helps us continue providing content like this.